We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to This Song Is Yours, the podcast where we dive deep into the art of songwriting, chat with some of the most exciting artists in the world, and explore the stories behind their songs. I'm your host, Simon Fink, and thank you for joining us. Our guest today on the podcast is acclaimed indie singer-songwriter Neko Case. Over the past 20 plus years, Neko has built a remarkable career under her own name, while also being a beloved member of Canadian indie rock supergroup, the New Pornographers. Beyond her music, she added another accolade to her list this year when she became a New York Times bestselling author with her memoir, The Harder I Fight, The More I Love You. After 7 years away from releasing solo music, Neko has returned with her 8th studio album, Neon Grey, Midnight Green. It's a sweeping, powerful record that blends her signature folk rock sensibilities with lush arrangements and, of course, her uniquely brilliant lyrical voice and its full force throughout. In today's episode, we are stoked to be joined by Neko Case on the podcast to discuss Neon Grey, Midnight Green. We chat about the importance of producing in her own studio, the difference between making music in a room full of people compared to the digital or AI approach, and what it's like to tour behind this new record. We also dive into what she's been up to over the past several years, which, as it turns out, includes writing music for a Thelma Louise Broadway musical. Now, we want to say a massive thank you to Dave for his help with today's episode and remind everyone that the brand new Neko Case record, Neon Grey, Midnight Green, is out right now. We've left links in the show notes on where you can purchase the record, follow Neko Case across her socials, and check out her upcoming tour dates. While you are in the show notes, please make sure you subscribe to This Song Is Yours as well, and go follow us on Instagram and on TikTok. We would really love it if you did. It really does help us out, and it ensures that you stay up to date with new episodes, guests, and everything else that we've got going on. Now let's get into it. Here is our conversation with Neko Case. Please welcome to This Song Is Yours, the brilliant Neko Case. Neko, hello there. How's it going?
Hi, thank you.
Of course. I'm very, very excited to have you on the podcast today. Thank you so much for your time and coming to join us. It's a busy time. It's an exciting time for Neko Case fans as well. There's a brand new record out, Neon Grey, Midnight Green. It's out now when people are listening to our chat. Firstly, congratulations on this gorgeous new record.
Thank you very much. It's a long time coming, so I'm very excited about it.
I was going to say, I wanted to kind of touch on this a little bit. It's the first one. I didn't realize. I was kind of going back through the discography the other day and having a look at all the records across the last number of years that you've put out. And it's the first one of the 2020s, which kind of surprised me. The first one in, I think, 7 years.
Yeah, COVID really put a kink in everyone's plans. And then I had many other projects, and the New Pornographers put out a record as well. So I had to kind of just do it slowly and wait.
I imagine that when you are crafting a new record and with someone who I feel is very intentional with the music that they put out and wanting to articulate exactly what it is that they want to say, I imagine that an album's not necessarily something that you want to rush when it does come to putting something out under your own name. And that is, I feel most of the times a Neko Case record is a bit of a statement, and I feel that that's not something that you necessarily want to speed through the process of.
No, I definitely don't. And, I had so many projects this time going on around the project that it kind of made my windows a little more spread out than normal than I would use to work on something. But I also got to make it in my own studio at home. So that was really wonderful. So it got to feel really cozy. You kind of having your pajamas on feeling, which was really.
I can imagine that there is a certain warmth and a certain kind of different chemistry you can have when the studio is your own and you're able to go in at any point throughout that process. I know that although you have produced previous records, there has been a bit of talk around this new record that it has been entirely entirely solo produced by yourself, which I'm curious why, not why now, but more so you've produced previously. Was there anything that you wanted to try or challenge yourself with this time around in terms of producing the record and that aspect of it?
Well, it's not really different, because unless you record a record in your bedroom and nobody else is around and you do all the music and write all the songs and do all the engineering and editing and recording and mastering yourself, it's collaborative. So it's not that different from, like, I've pretty much produced a bunch of my other records too, but it just felt more special because it was recorded in my own studio. And I kind of needed to remind myself that, because I forget too, that women are such a small population when it comes to producers. And, you know, when I think of producers, I often, in my mind, I think of a bunch of guys. Like, I do the same thing, you know, and so for, you know, women and people who are differently gendered and non-gendered and trans, like, we just don't have a huge presence in production, but that, you know, that'll change. And so I wanted to just be outward about it, more outward.
Which I think is very fair. I think that I do agree with what you said. Unfortunately, there's not enough women and female identifying and non-gender conforming people in that side of the business in terms of production, mixing, mastering, engineering. And so I think that any form of representation is important. And I think that it's a fantastic thing that you've done on this record. Sonically, I was hoping to chat about this record. It almost sounds like it's from another time in a way. It is a timeless record, which I wouldn't not expect from a Neko Case record. All your records previously have had a certain magic to them where they can be played or placed in any time of the last number of decades and sound like it is still very current. This one, whether it may have been the orchestra, certain instrumentation, I'm curious, what was it that, I guess with 2025 having music sometimes that plays a lot to nostalgia or to certain trends, going into it, was there something that you wanted to keep in mind that had a certain feel to the music almost that made it timeless or made it not stick to a certain not time frame, sorry. I guess not dated. Era? Yes, exactly.
Yeah. What I really wanted to have people remember, and I really wanted to do, because I'd never gotten to do it, is I wanted to work with an orchestra. And I wanted to remind people what it sounded like when there's a lot of people playing together. And not editing out, you know, an arm swishing against a chair or a human breath, because a lot of things in music nowadays are just edited out, and it's made very super clean, very super, just very sharp. And that's not a bad thing. I just miss the sounds of humans were here. And I don't have anything against, say, putting a string section on with a keyboard or a synthesizer. I think those things sound cool too. I just feel that musicians are going extinct in the minds of the consumers. People who consume music don't remember us. And it's like we've disappeared. It's like we don't happen. Just like there's a lot of, you know, connection between people that is fading. Things that are handmade, going to places to get something in person rather than having it delivered to you, or living on your phone rather than taking a walk and saying hello to your neighbors. Or there's just so many things that we kind of have found substitutions for the humans. And I really wanted to bring the humans back into it. And, you know, I don't know that I'll ever be able to afford to have an orchestra ever again. And back in the day, people made pop music all the time. And, you know, if they were on CBS records, they'd use the CBS orchestra. You know, it would be the same orchestra Frank Sinatra used on a trillion different recordings. And I just like those Nancy Sinatra and Lee Hazelwood records with those incredibly lush string sections that gave like these really bizarre, but like just absolutely transfixing sounds that sound like nothing else in the world. Like it just makes a whole other landscape, like some weird outer space landscape that I can't even fully pinpoint when I visualize it, which is really exciting. I love that I can't really describe it. But the sound is humans were here. And humans are here and humans are together. Like the intention of people playing together is such an incredible power. And I wanted people to remember how powerful they are and how capable they are, because people are losing faith in themselves en masse.
100% agree. I think that in the last number of years, we've seen more and more the rise and unfortunately the acceptance of artificial intelligence when it comes to music, when it comes to art. And I think that while it can be sometimes used as a tool for certain things, for certain creatives, I think in the larger sense, it does unfortunately then show, who was it, the Velvet Sundown or the AI band that ended up getting hundreds of thousands of streams on Spotify, and people didn't really seem to mind, which is something that's even sadder, I think, when you look at the care and the love and the thought and intention that's put behind music created by humans. I think it's very interesting.
Well, I mean, the Velvet Sundown thing seems like it was kind of a novelty and like the punchline of a joke more than a real thing. Like, I don't think AI can write a song that will make you pull your car over and cry. Only humans can do that. So I'm not really worried about being replaced by AI, but I don't like the idea of art and music being mined to teach AI how to do it instead of humans. That is, unethical. And it's like streaming. Nobody asks musicians what they think. They just don't. So it's really hard to remind, like, it's weird. It's like people are deaf right now. So it's like, we'll just make the music and then people will either notice or they won't. People are very addicted to convenience, so they don't want to look at that, I don't think. And I don't want to deny what a brilliant, incredible, game-changing technology streaming is either, because it is. What an incredible way to share music. But it's unfortunate that the people who own it are really fucking horrible people. Like truly the worst people.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give them my money. Not that I earn any with them, but
I think that there is something to be said about, at the moment, at this current stage in 2025, you're seeing more and more artists. Who have we got? King Gizzard is an example, the Australian band, a number of others leaving, a certain green music streaming app because they recognize that it doesn't at all pay mind to the artist who's actually providing that art and providing the content for them to listen to. So it's
right. And now even worse, their money might be going to fuel something that actually hurts other human beings. Exactly.
We have done a whole video and piece on this, which I won't bore you with now, but could not agree with you more, Neko. In terms of this record, I was hoping that you might indulge us a little bit. We are a songwriting podcast primarily. I really loved the song Little Gears from this record, which I think does something that I don't think AI could do. It highlights the beauty in a lot of like small and maybe missed moments that happen throughout life. I was wondering if you might be able to talk us through Little Gears and where that song kind of came from.
Well, one day I was sitting on my front porch and there was a little spider building a web. And I was watching her for a while and I realized, oh, she's making progress pretty fast. So I thought, well, maybe I'll sit here and I'll watch her. I've never sat through a whole web building. And I didn't think that I would be sitting through an entire web building, but I thought it was something that took like 3 days because they're so perfect and they're so like the details are so minute and everything is so mathematically perfect. And she did it in an hour. And I was just like, what? That's all it only took you an hour to do that. Like I felt so humbled, But I was like, what? And I was like, your DNA must be the most incredible, like clockwork gears of any creature, that you can be less than 3 days old and suddenly you're making a web that is so physically arresting and literally physically arresting, and also a gorgeous work of art that is made of the strongest substance known to man. Good job, little tiny spider. Way to be. And then it made me think so much about how humans think they're just the apex of everything. And we're not. We're animals who are self-aware, annoyingly self-aware. Like, I wonder what the animals think of us. They just must be like, oh, it's humans again. There they are. Oh, a new laser. Good job.
It is a gorgeous track, and it's funny that it's not funny, it's probably not the right word, but I do find it interesting that then sometimes how you can go from seeing things like that are like little beautiful moments in life that you might not even notice every day, and how it can then inspire those thoughts to create something like this. Wondering whether you might be able to share what got you into songwriting. Where did you start as a songwriter, and what kind of introduced you to the art of writing music and lyrics?
Well, it kind of came out of necessity because I was in a band with two other women, and we were all contributing lyrics to the songs, and we would just write them together, and they would be funny or silly, and when you think you're doing something not as a joke, but slightly self-deprecating, you can feel a lot safer than you do setting out to do something serious. But it didn't seem that far away from something serious. So it just seemed natural to keep doing it, I think.
Is there, when you look back on, I guess, the earlier stages of your life and how music played a role in that, was there any people who inspired you to make that start? Any people that you kind of thought, I can do that, or that person's like me, why can't I try the art of songwriting?
Well, there were people who were really good at it who kind of taught me I couldn't do it. Maybe the love song wasn't my thing. Like people like Hank Williams who write love songs, are so plain spoken. There's no fat to cut off. And I don't know, you kind of go, well, or I think of Louis Armstrong a lot. He sang a lot of the most beautiful love songs. And, the songs weren't written by him necessarily, but like he did the most beautiful versions of them. Like If I Could Be With You, or I Can't Give You Anything But Love. Like, I just don't think there's a more beautiful human expression of love. Him singing those songs. And I realized that love wasn't really my arena, or at least not conventional love, because I didn't trust it, for one thing. And for another, you really got to mean it, or it just doesn't work. I knew I wanted to do it. I didn't know where that would take me, though. I didn't make any plans based on it. I just wanted to play music so bad. Yeah.
I think that there's something really special about the music of Neko Case, and I'm not simply saying that because we're having this conversation here and I am in front of you, so I'm not trying simply to inflate your ego at all, but please also feel free to take it as a compliment. I think that there is something really special about the music of Neko Case, because more often than not, I find that these songs kind of subvert the listener's expectations, that there's... Before, when we were talking about the magic of humans making music, I think there's something really special in the way that you build arrangements, that you build choruses, that certain phrases, certain like cadences, you might think they're going one way and then the song kind of shifts to another, which I think is really special. And I'm wondering whether that has always been an intentional thing, maybe something that has been learnt over time, or whether that is just something that came naturally to you, and that is, I guess, the craft that you started and built on your own.
Well, I think I wanted to write stories more than I wanted to write songs, even though I didn't realize that that's what I was doing. And the stories were more linear than a song with a verse, chorus, verse, chorus. So even though there might be choruses, it didn't help the story to go back to a chorus, say. So it would go to something else that would serve the story. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. It just, I wasn't hell-bent on being verse, chorus. I thought linear was exciting.
I think that's totally fair. And I think that maybe does speak to the power. It's more prose than it is catchy pop song in a way. And that's not to say the music is not catchy, but more so that the way that these songs are built, they have a literary purpose almost.
They do. And I also was heavily influenced by early Queen records, especially Queen 2, because mm-hmm. Freddie Mercury was such a melody genius that like he just had all these throwaway melodies all over the records. So there would be a song that would happen and there would be all this crazy Baroque shit happening and gorgeous melodies and harmonies. And then he would sing one melody line that broke your fucking heart and you're sure that's the chorus, but he never sings it again. And I was like, that's how bad a person should want to hear a line in a song.
Yeah.
And I thought it was brilliant and genius because obviously he's brilliant and genius, but nobody really mentions that about him. It's like just so chock full of melodies. The guy had just had ones to just throw away. And they weren't throwaway. I just thought they were more potent because of the fact that he only spent them one time. I thought that was so classy.
There is something when you can strike gold or hit lightning, whichever metaphor you kind of want to use, and then only use it as a once. There is a power to that, I think, and I think it works.
Right?
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, it gives you chills. And like, I would cry when the melody would come on. I would just be like, "There it is! I've been waiting so long. Oh God, it feels so good." And then I have to listen to the song again. It's a sweet way to get somebody to listen to your song again too, if you're thinking about it just in like a more callous way. But thinking about the kind of music that he made, I don't think there was anything callous about anything he was doing there. It was just pure. It was like, what is a gorgeous herd of wild horses going to do? They're going to run around looking beautiful and gorgeous.
Yeah.
Of course he is.
I think it's that thing. If you're overindulgent and give the people what they want 7 times throughout the song, they're going to lose interest quickly. Whereas if it's just that tiny little thing, they'll keep coming back time and time again, which I think is special.
Like there are definitely bands that really beat the chorus like a dead horse, and sometimes it's really great and it really works. Man, that's something you got to know how to wield.
Definitely
Otherwise, it's
agree with that.
Okay, we get it.
I do want to veer slightly off topic, off the record for just 1 second. I know that, as we've just discussed, like I guess a literary process plays into the music. One of the projects that you were working on alongside this record was the Thelma and Louise musical, I believe. And I'm curious how that has gone as a songwriting process. Have you found that that's changed how you approach the songwriting process in that literary sense? Because this is more of it is a story, so it's still storytelling, but I guess when you're having to deliver songs that maybe hit certain story points, maybe I'll ask, what's that process been like?
Well, it's very different in that I'm writing songs. When I start for a record, I'm writing songs for myself because that's my experience is the one I know. But I'm telling stories and I know what I mean immediately. Whereas when you're writing for characters that belong to someone else, you're there to serve them. And it is so fun not to be worried about what you want and trying to make something custom for someone else. It is such a fantastic exercise, and everything is so heavily juried. And, there's 4 creatives that are there working very collaboratively. It's heavily collaborative. So, you make things all day and you throw half of them out. And it's such a nice lesson in not being precious about things. And I was worried. I was like, I wonder if I'm going to be, I'm good at not taking things personally, but I wonder if I'll be hurt if there are some things that I have to throw away. But I like the things that other people have been like, I haven't missed them. Not yet. I'm going to knock on wood, but and I don't want to get what I want out of it. I want Callie to have what she didn't have from the movie, which wasn't because the movie wasn't good or Ridley Scott wasn't a great director. It was because a movie's only 2 hours long. So the actors and the directors did a great job making us suspend our disbelief that these women are old friends and they've known each other their whole lives. But there's not really any evidence in the movie of that. We believe that. So working on the play, you get more backstory, and we learn a lot more about these women, and we learn a lot more about all the characters in the story. And we have other goals outside that, which, the rest of us have also brought to the table, which Callie really wants, which is we didn't want the male characters in the show to be cartoons. We didn't want them to be throwaway caricatures. We want them to have as much to lose as the women. And we all lose under the thumb of patriarchy. And we really wanted to make that very clear, and to have everybody take responsibility and accountability for their own mistakes, but remind everybody that we are all being shorted. And there's so much that we cannot have if we don't rewire ourselves from that. And so that's been a very big part of our work.
I know that there's a lot of excitement around this show and your involvement with it. So I am very curious and very excited to see the results. I believe coming out next year, the year after.
I'm hoping, I think the goal, and you can say this, but, and I can say this, but I think the goal is to get it on stage by fall of 2026. But Broadway things change all the time on a dime. And, we've been working on it in London. So the likelihood that it may open in London is probably a higher possibility than in New York, but that could change too. You never know. Could suddenly be like, we're opening in Boston. Things change all the time. So it's funny. It's like the longest I've ever worked on something for, and I've only just seen it for the first time 2 months ago, which it was so emotional and eye-opening and crazy.
I can imagine something that you've poured your heart into for, I believe, I want to say over 5 to 7 years or so.
It's been almost 10.
Yeah.
Which really is not unusual for a Broadway show, which makes me go, man, that's hardcore. And then I kind of fist in the air and I go, right on, Broadway. That's hardcore.
Well, when it does get announced that it is being played either in London or New York, or wherever it may debut, we'll be sure that we share those details as well. One thing we'll also be sharing is the tour dates for your current American tour, I believe, taking place from October through January. Lots of dates, which we'll share in the show notes of the podcast. It might be a little bit remiss and might be a little bit obvious. Can we expect to see you back down here in Australia in support of Neon Grey, Midnight Green?
We are working on a routing right now. We being me and mostly my booking agent, because that is a specialty. But yes, working very hard to get there. Things are very difficult at the moment with prices of things. And, I play with a full band, so it's not easy to get 6 people overseas, but we've done it so many times. I don't want to do it less. I just want to make sure that we're representing the album properly. But we always would save Australia and New Zealand for the end, because it's kind of our favorite place to tour. That's like the dessert portion of a record cycle. So I want to get there as bad as you guys want us to come. Really, I do.
I will gladly take that news that it's being discussed as a positive thing. And I think the dessert portion, is a compliment to anyone who's from Australia listening to this.
It is such a huge compliment. That's every band I'm in. That's the first thing. It's like, are we going to make it to Australia? Okay, we're going to announce. Is Australia on there yet?
I think because we're so far away, we are very appreciative when bands do come to visit us. And I think that's maybe why we love seeing people come to see us, because it's we recognise the track that it's taken.
The feeling is mutual. I've never met a band who did not love touring Australia.
Oh, that's very good to hear. I love to hear that. Lastly, Neko, we kind of wrap things up with our guest asking what they're currently listening to. For yourself, is there anything that's on high rotation at the moment?
I have been, mostly I've just been listening to the Tones on Tail song Lions over and over again the past couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
It's just been the insidious earworm that I'm really enjoying. I made myself a 11-hour mix of songs to take on tour for, music in the theater. So I've been listening to that too, which has been very, very energizing. But that Tones on Tail song is the one I'm just like, repeat.
Love that. Well, look, very excited to see how that tour goes and very excited for people to hear this new record of yours. It's called Neon Grey, Midnight Green. It is out now when people are listening to our conversation. But Neko Case, thank you again for coming onto the podcast and having a chat.
Simon, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much for letting me come and talk about my record, and musicians need you. So thank you for doing what you're doing.